Namaskar. So the topic today is, what is spirituality? And to make it simple, spirituality means to focus on spirit as opposed to focusing on material things, both in terms of how I see myself and how I see the world around me. So as a human being, I am physical, I have a body, I have a mind, I have my awareness, my consciousness, my being, my spirit. So normally we kind of identify, if you think of that as a spectrum, right, from physical to mental to spiritual. So in that spectrum, somewhere I identify myself, right? I may identify myself as a man, as a Canadian, as an older person, as a monk, many different ways. I may identify myself according to my occupation or my age or my nationality. But spirituality means to look for my inner identity, right? Not to identify with something that is physical or material in myself, but to identify with spirit. I am awareness, I am being, I am consciousness. And to look for that and to move towards that and to associate my feeling of self with that. So who am I? What am I? I am not a person, I am consciousness, I am being. I am not finite, I am infinite, I am eternal. So, and the same applies to when I look at you or I look at something around me. The world around me also has those same three dimensions: physical dimension, mental dimension, and a spiritual dimension. If I'm talking to a person, I can focus on their physical aspect. I can focus on their mental attractiveness or unattractiveness. Or I can focus on something timeless and eternal within them, that here in front of me is consciousness, is being, is God in the form of this person. So spirituality means to focus on that spiritual side of things, to see that. And why is that important? As human beings, we look for happiness, right? But everything in this world, in this material world, can give us temporary happiness, can give us part happiness. It can't give us absolute happiness, and it can't give us permanent happiness, because it comes and goes. If my happiness depends only on you, you are here sometimes, you are not here sometimes, you will go, you will change, I will change, things like that. So if my happiness depends upon things in the external world, it can never be stable, it can never be permanent, and it can never be absolute. But there is something inside us as human beings which is looking for the absolute, looking for something infinite, looking for something eternal. And I won't find what I'm looking for in this external world. I have to turn around and look within to find something eternal, something infinite, something permanent. So spirituality means not to look for temporary part happiness, but to look for permanent, complete happiness. And if you want to find that, you have to look in the right place, right? So look inside, detach your mind from the outer world, and focus on the deeper state of beingness. So normally we have kind of two levels of consciousness: the external consciousness. And I talked about this when we were talking about yoga, right? So when I look externally, I see separateness. But when I look internally, somewhere deep inside me, I am connected to all of humanity. I am connected to nature. I am connected to God, to the universe. So when I look inside, I come to that connectedness. And that is spirituality. So looking for the eternal inside in the right place. Okay. So So asking yourself certain questions: who am I? Right? What is reality? And what is the source? What is the foundation? What is everything made of? Right? What is the fundamental stuff? So these kind of questions, you can say, are spiritual questions. Right? And so asking those questions, and then once you have some idea about it, so let's say you decide that you come to the conclusion that the foundation of everything is consciousness, awareness, all right? Then spirituality also means that after you get the answer to that question, you focus on it, right? So I focus my attention not on the physical or the psychic, but I focus it on spirituality, on awareness, consciousness, God, okay? So I have to, if I want to move towards something, I have to focus on it. So how do you focus on something? You have to find some name for it. What am I going to call it? Right? Am I going to call it awareness? Then I can focus on awareness. Am I going to call it Buddha, Jesus, God, Shiva, Krishna? So I choose some name which I like and which somehow carries that feeling, right? For different people, that may be different, right? Baba, for example. So I focus on some name that carries that feeling of mystery and infinity and eternity. And I have to, once I have that name, I also need some qualities. So what is this? What are the qualities? It is something present everywhere. It is something which has no limits. It is something which is beyond time and place. It is something eternal. So then when I imagine, I think of something eternal, I think of something infinite, maybe infinite light or infinite happiness or something like that. And then I begin to focus. And to focus, you have to let go of other things. So I turn off my phone, I close my doors, I close my eyes, I fold my hands, and my attention, which is normally going out, it turns around and it goes back inside, right? And then I use the name, all right? And maybe I use it in a scientific way. So a mantra, a powerful sound, which represents being, consciousness, awareness. For example, in Sanskrit, there's a word Sat Chit Ananda for the source of everything. Sat means that which is unchanging. Chit means awareness. And Ananda means blissful. All right? So that which is unchanging, which is aware, and which is blissful. All right? So I focus on Sat Chit Ananda or Shiva or Krishna or whatever name I like. Maybe I do it in a scientific way. I connect it with my breath. Inhale, exhale, and that helps me to focus. Okay? So that is meditation, right? I close my eyes. I let go of my external world. I come into, that and focus on that spiritual idea. Right? So spirituality means to focus on the spiritual thought idea. But what about when I'm not meditating, when I'm working, when I'm playing, when I'm with my friends and things like that? So for that, we need something. Spirituality means to be mindful, to remember. To remember when I talk to someone that here is God in the form of this person, right? To focus on the spiritual in that person. When I receive my food or when I eat my food, in Japan you say itadakimasu, right? So it's just before you start eating, if you say that word, you remember, I got this food as a gift from something greater, right? You are thankful. So that makes it spiritual, not so physical, right? There is a beautiful inner dimension to my eating my food. So I remember maybe I use a mantra. So I keep that thought of the divine in my mind when I'm moving around. Okay, I remember the mantra, I repeat the mantra. I apply that idea. Everything I see, I tell myself every single atom, every single thought is consciousness, is God, right? And so I am able to move around in the world, but still keep mentally touching that spiritual idea. So this is spirituality, keeping your focus on the spiritual, which is hidden in all things. And when you do that, what happens? You become what you think, right? If you keep your focus always on the spiritual, it transforms you, it changes you. You become spiritual. And Jesus said in the Bible, search for something and you will find it. Seek and you will find. So if I'm not looking for the spiritual, I won't find it, of course. But if I'm looking for it always, as I move around, I'm thinking of that, I'm focusing on it, I'm looking for it, it will begin to appear, right? It's hidden in everything because it's subtle, right? You can see an apple, it's easy to see, but the apple is made of atoms. And what are those atoms made of? Maybe they are made of imagination, of divine imagination, right? If I'm looking for that, I will start to see it. And then the whole world begins to have this magical feeling of divinity about it. So, always keep your mind on the spiritual. Look for the spiritual in yourself, in the world around it, and find some practical way to do that. You need a name for it. What am I going to call it? And that name will give you an easy way to stay focused on it. That's why we use a mantra. All right. That's my answer. Thank you.